So I want to welcome you all to this session. This is the Cooking for One or Two session with Kate McCullough. She is the Family and Consumer Sciences Extension Agent from Sumner County. And Kate did a lot of cooking work during the pandemic, and many of you follow Kate and her extension besties, Shelby and Michaela, as they took us on an exploration of food. And so this session is definitely right up her alley. Everybody, please welcome Kate McCullough. Thanks, Kate.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, this class is going to be more of an educational one versus me actually showing you the different recipes, but we will go over the recipes at the end. So as Shelly did say, Kate McCullough from Sumner County. Just want to let you guys know, in case I haven't met you yet, in the fall, this will be my third year with Extension. And before that, I was an FCS classroom teacher for 9 years. So lots of cooking and everything like that done in the classroom. My background is in nutrition and dietetics, and you will see that today as I talk to you about the different things, and you will be able to see how passionate I am about what we are going to discuss. One thing I do want to state before I start, everything that I discuss today with you is general in nature. Nothing I say today replaces the advice given to you by a healthcare professional. And if you are going to make changes to your diet or to your exercise program, you should consult your healthcare team first. So let's go ahead and get started. The majority of things I'm going to speak about are the cooking for one aspect. Some of the recipes, though, are for two, because you could cook that and then have it as leftovers. Or if you were cooking for two people, then you would just enjoy that one meal that night. I wanted all of you to know that I do listen, because I heard this a lot, that we want more cooking things related to cooking for one person or just for two. So we need to start with why nutrition is important. So what we eat definitely affects the body, from our brain all the way down to the bones in our feet. Everything is affected by what we eat. So as you can see, starting with the brain, going from your cognition and your mood, I think we have all been there. We know how hunger and things can affect the mood that we're in. But we also know how we feel when we eat certain kinds of food. Maybe if you had to settle for fast food one night or something like that, your mood isn't the best versus if you would have had a very, healthy salad or something like that. So that's affected our immunity, definitely something that we're being very cautious of right now. All of our major organs, I'll go into that in more detail related to heart disease. And then our GI tract and our microbiome, which is, good bacteria and some, bad bacteria that we do not want, as well as our muscle and bone. Now, I'm not going to read all of the things on the right as I am speaking. You can look over and look at those as far as what malnutrition increases the risk of, okay? So the old saying, you are what you eat, it's true. I mean, when you think about it, the foods that we consume, they are going to affect us on the inside and the out. So when you think about somebody who maybe is having a diet or cooking recipes that are very high in fat or cholesterol, then they're going to have those issues on the inside, as well as storing excess fat on the outside. Then you can think of the contrast of that. Somebody who has a diet that's low in that, the inside's going to be better, and then the outside appearance may be as well. So all of these different things that were listed there on the right, we definitely want to eat nutritiously so we can prevent those. So older adults and nutrition risk. So the risk factors that you will see up there are present in 40 to 60% of older adults with nutrition risk. So the main risk factors are listed out to the right in those little bullets. But what it causes is either low or poor food intake and then low or poor nutrient intake. So somebody may be eating an adequate amount of food, but if they're not eating the best kinds of food, then they will not get the nutrients that their body needs. So some of these different things that are looked at, that you can see these risk factors present, are people that do have a low income. So the budget may not be the best and they feel that they cannot buy, those nutritious foods. And then all those other ones, you'll see too my teaching style. I'm not going to read everything to you that's on the screen because I know that you can see that. So when you look at all of these different things, I know you're probably thinking, well, how do we combat this? How do we make sure that this doesn't happen? And the way that we start is by looking at our individual needs, which will be what we discuss next. So the dietary guidelines for Americans were updated recently, which is wonderful. So they've been updated for 2020 through 2025. And what is recommended for women ages 60 and older is this little version of My Plate. A lot of you have probably seen My Plate before. It's an excellent resource. You can actually log into that website that's down there that says choosemyplate.gov, and you can create a personalized plan for you. So based on your age, your gender, and your physical activity level, because it changes based on those things. Somebody who is more physically active is going to require more calories throughout the day. So you will see that this one is based on somebody who is moderately active, and again, a female age 60 or higher. So 2.5 cups of vegetables, 1.5 cups of fruits, 6 ounces of grains, 3 cups dairy, 5 ounces protein, and 24 grams of oils, or you can consider those like added fats, which would total to 1,800 calories. And we are going to look at each of these sections individually. Sorry, this got a little blurry, but just to give you an idea that if you went on to choosemyplate.gov and you created a plan for yourself, it would give you something based on one of these calorie level patterns at the top. The lowest that they start is 1,600. They don't go below that. If you're going below that, then definitely it's going to be a healthcare provider that's suggesting that for you. But you will see it continues to go up and it gets higher. So therefore, your serving sizes are going to get higher as well. Again, based on, how physically active you are, whether you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to maintain your body weight. And then sometimes people are actually trying to gain weight. So it's based on all of those different things. Now, what was found out when updating the dietary guidelines for Americans is that there are special considerations for all Americans, and then there's even more for age 60 and over. So as far as special considerations for all, meaning that they're not seeing people consuming adequate amounts of these. So the first is going to be calcium and vitamin D. And we know that these are extremely important for our bone health. Having these can help reduce the risk of osteoporosis. Potassium, apparently bananas are not a favorite of most Americans because we're low in potassium, and as well as fiber. Potassium, one thing I do want to say is that it definitely helps with your nerve health and it helps with muscle health as well. And the largest muscle it helps with is making sure your heart is working and, working healthy. And then fiber, of course, helps with our colon health, but it also can help with our arteries as well, because it can reduce the levels of cholesterol. So that is for all Americans. And then underneath, you can see specifically for ages 60 and over, it is protein, vitamin B, and beverages. And you can see the little disclaimer I put at the bottom, because a lot of times when people think beverages, they also include supplements that they have. And so your supplement should not replace regular food intake again, unless a health professional has told you that. So we're going to go into these in more detail. So protein, as we age, we lose lean muscle mass. So it's really important to make sure that we are getting a variety of protein in our diet to make sure that we can prevent that as much as possible. Also, vitamin B12. The absorption rate of this decreases with age and certain medications. Before you were placed on that medication, your healthcare professional should have discussed with you how it can affect your diet and the absorption of certain vitamins. Vitamin B12 is very important as far as nerve regulation. And you can get vitamin B12 from different proteins. So there's a 2-for-1 right there. You can get it from, poultry and fish and meat, but also if you are consuming cereals, they often are fortified with vitamin B12. So that's something that's really helpful. And then as far as beverages, making sure that you do stay hydrated. Again, as we age, our sensation of thirst is going to decline. We're not going to be as thirsty as maybe we were before, because maybe also our physical activity isn't what it used to be. So by the age of 80, the water in our body is made up of 2/3 of water. It actually decreases by 20%. So it's really important to make sure that you are getting enough, I say water, but it says beverages. Always start with water first. There is an 8x8 rule. It means that you should be consuming 8 fluid ounce glasses of water a day. Again, due to certain medications or conditions, it may be different for you. This is just a general, guideline for that. But we want to make sure that we're focusing on these for ages 60 and older, because these are the ones that were really honed in on with the dietary guidelines of Americans, saying that these were not being consumed adequately. So let's get into the plate and what it should look like for us and different, suggestions. Now, this is going back to what I showed you originally. And I promise we're getting to the cooking part where when we start with the plate, then we know what recipes we want to use and different things like that. Also, during this, I should have stated this at the beginning. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat box. And then at the end, I can answer all of those. I will also have other resources that if there was something specific that you wanted emailed to you directly, I could definitely do that as well. So we'll start with fruits, which is at the top left-hand side. So it's important to focus on whole fruits if you can. 1 cup of fruit would be considered a serving, or 1 cup of 100% fruit juice. It's really important to read our labels to make sure that the fruit juice is 100% and that, it's not predominantly sugar or high fructose corn syrup. And you'll know this when you look at the ingredients list. If the first thing listed is sugar or high fructose corn syrup, that means that's predominantly what that beverage is. The ingredients have to be listed by descending order. So whatever that product contains the most of is going to be listed first. So when you are looking at fruit juices, it should be the juice of the fruit listed first, or in some cases it's water, and then the juice is listed. So just be very cautious of that. Because fruit is nature's candy. It's going to be higher in carbohydrates because it's higher in sugar and naturally contains fructose. So a lot of people, especially people with type 2 diabetes, may have to watch their fruit consumption. Another thing is you will see as you look at the screen, you get a cup of fresh fruit, but what counts as a serving of dried fruit is only a half. And the reason for that is because all of that juice and all of that water has been removed. So it's more calorically dense. So that's the whole reason dried fruit is going to be less. And as you look at the right-hand side, that's a guideline if you were just using your hand of the size of the serving. So a cup is going to be a fist, and then a half cup is a cupped, cupped palm. So easy way to get these in. If you feel, well, I'm not getting enough fruits or whatever it may be, just having them on hand and keeping them out in the refrigerator. So a lot of times we have those bins underneath and they get tucked down in there. And then by the time we realize, oh, I didn't eat my apples, now they're already spoiled. So keeping them out, maybe in a little fruit dish or something like that, you can set it out in direct view in the refrigerator, or if it can be stored at room temperature, keep it out on the counter. Adding them to breakfast items. I grew up in a family where we cut up bananas and we put it on top of our Rice Krispies instead of putting sugar on there. So these are just simple things that you can do. They're a ready to eat option as a snack. And with summer being here, fruit salads and salsas are a really good way to incorporate them. And remember, the general recommendation for that 1,800 calorie diet that I told you about is going to be 1.5 to 2 cups per day. Okay, not per meal. So that will be per day. Now your vegetables, vary your veggies. You get so many different vitamins and minerals by varying the color. When I was in the classroom, always told my students, eat the rainbow. I mean, you definitely want to do that. So making sure that you're not only getting your dark green, dark leafy greens, but also red and orange vegetables offer different vitamins and minerals than those green ones did. The same with beans, peas, lentils. But when you think about that, again, if you have to watch your carbohydrate intake, you need to be cautious because those are going to be starchy, just like your potatoes. So it's really simple to do, adding leftover cooked veggies to an omelet, trying spinach in a smoothie. I know some of you are probably like, no, thank you, but it's really not that bad, because it just blends in, especially kale too is really good. Replacing, maybe if you put cheese on a sandwich and you're wanting to do something else, you could add carrots to that, snack on raw veggies, or try a stir fry. So the recommendation is 2 to 3 cups. Now, if you're having leafy greens, that 2 cups is going to count as a 1 cup serving because of the airspace and everything that's going to be between, the leafy greens, because this amount of space that they take up in the measuring cup. Grains, making half your grains whole. So grains and protein are counted by ounces. So what counts as an ounce? 1 slice of bread, 1 cup of ready to eat cereal, half a cup of cooked rice, pasta, or cooked cereal if you were having, oatmeal or something like that. What is recommended? 6 ounces. But out of those 6 ounces, half of them should be whole grains. So when you look at the different types of grains, there are whole grains, which give you everything that you want. They give you the fiber, they give you the vitamins, the minerals, all of that. Then you have your refined grains. Refined grains have been completely stripped of all of those good things that I just mentioned. So you are just left over with the starch. So when you think of refined grains, you're going to think of your white bread. You're going to think of your white pasta that's just made with the semolina flour. When you are shopping for whole wheat and whole grain products, again, look at the nutrition facts labels. You will see that whole wheat is listed first, or whole grain, and then whatever the grain might be. Sometimes multigrain misleads people. And they think, oh, just because it's a multi-grain product, it's good. Well, you have to look and see what the grains are. I mean, it could be a refined grain. It could not be a whole grain. So you just got to make sure that you're reading those ingredients on there. Next is your protein. So vary your protein routine. If you can, because I know some people have allergies, it is suggested to get seafood or fish 2 to 3 times a week due to the healthy omega-3 fatty acids that they offer. So if it's possible for you to do that, wonderful. Protein, again, is measured in ounces. So you are allowed 5 to 6 ounces in a day. When you look at the palm of your hand, but flattened, that's a 3-ounce serving. So again, it can be meat, it can be poultry, it can be fish, but your beans, eggs, peanut butter, other nut butters, and nuts and seeds count as a protein serving. What's really important with protein is making sure that you choose lean cuts. And again, I know you're probably like, you keep saying this, but look at the labels, because I find this so interesting when I teach my dining with diabetes. People think if I buy ground turkey, it's healthier for me. It's automatically healthier for me than red meat. Not necessarily. It depends on the cut of the meat and how the meat was processed. If you go and buy an 85-15 package of ground turkey, which uses not just white meat, it uses the full fat dark meat, you buy that, you're going to get about 16 grams of fat in there. Whereas if you buy the 93.7 of either the turkey or let's say the ground beef, you're only getting 7 grams of fat versus 16. So you really just have to look and not be thrown off by the fact, oh, this is beef and I've been told it's bad. Not if it's a lean cut. You just have to make the choice of what's right for you. And then dairy. In June is going to be dairy month. So hooray. Move to low fat or fat-free dairy. So your milk or your yogurt choices. Some people can't have this. So you have lactose free because lactose is the sugar that naturally occurs in milk. Or you can have fortified soy versions, which give you the same amount of calcium as the cow's milk. Now with dairy, the biggest thing when you look at traditional dairy, again, cow's milk, you're going to have the full fat, which is whole, and then you'll go 2%, 1% skim or fat free. All that changes in all of that is the fat content. Whole milk, a cup of whole milk and a cup of skim milk are going to have the same vitamin D and the same calcium. It's the fat that changes. So if you need to make a switch from having something that's higher in fat to lower in fat, the taste is going to change as well. So I highly suggest making small changes, maybe switching from 2% to 1 and then going down to skim. Because if you do it from whole to skim, it's a drastic change. So what counts as a serving? 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of yogurt, 1.5 ounces of cheese, which will give you, like a couple cubes if you had that. If it was the slices of cheese, you're going to get about 2 slices. And then one very interesting thing about dairy is that no matter who or what you're entering into my plate, so you creating your personal plan, myself and then my mom, we are going to have 3 cups across the board. The dairy part does not change because, again, the dietary guidelines for Americans, we were so low in calcium that it stays 3 cups across the board. So that's one very interesting thing as far as dairy goes. Now let's get into the cooking. So cooking can help you with your health. So when you cook for yourself, you are in control. You choose the ingredients, you choose the nutrient level. Not saying that we can never go and dine out. Of course we can, but you just have to be mindful of what you're purchasing when you're there. So eating well and being physically active can reduce your risk of chronic diseases. And I know chronic diseases are going to be discussed later today. Things that none of us want: the heart disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, and there are many more. So when you are cooking for yourself, you are the one that can control what you are consuming. So benefits of cooking for one, because what usually happens when things change is before you're cooking for a family, it's rewarding, you're like, oh, my kids love when I make this and that kind of stuff. Well, now, the kids are gone and you're cooking for yourself. And as a mom, I know this, you're like, I'm not going to go through all this trouble just for myself. Like I would do it if I was entertaining or if somebody else was enjoying it, but I'm not going to do all that just for me. And that's the thing. When you cook for one, it doesn't have to be a daunting task. And it can still be very, very rewarding. So you finally get to eat what you want when you want. I currently have a 7-year-old, and if I'm having salmon and broccoli and that kind of stuff, no, he does not want any of that. So now I'm cooking a grilled cheese on top of making my dinner. But when you're just cooking for one, you get to eat what you want when you want. And meals can be cooked faster because you're not cooking such a large quantity anymore, which also means less waste and better cleanup. You can save money, and we'll get into that with the shopping part. And it's empowering. Like I said, you're in control of you. So tips for getting started, stocking up on staples. So all of those things listed there, from the canned tomatoes all the way to the rice, making sure that the pantry is stocked with those things. Just in case you did not plan out your meals for the week, if it's last minute, you always have things on hand to make sure that you're eating nutritiously. Also, looking for shortcuts. You have earned this. You have been cooking for your family for the longest time. And, sometimes that involves sacrificing what we really want to eat. But also a lot of time and preparation has gone into that. So if possible, choose the shortcuts, get the pre-chopped, get the vegetables that are already washed. I know some of you are thinking, well, those are more expensive. It depends. If you go into Kroger and you see that it's marked down for quick sale and has to be used within the next 2 days, well, then maybe you switch your menu items for that week. Maybe instead of doing my pasta that I was going to do tonight, since these onions and peppers are on quick sale, I'm going to go ahead and make my individual fajitas. So you just have to be mindful of when you're shopping. And then you can cook once and eat multiple times. And a lot of the different things that I'm going to show you, they do freeze very well too. And as far as freezer safety and all of that, I have a document that tells when, if it goes in the freezer at this time, it needs to come out at this time. So if you would like that too, I could definitely send that your way. So tips for getting started: prepare meals without cooking. What that means is a lot of the side dishes and everything, you don't even have to turn on a heat source. And a lot of people would like that, especially in the summertime when it's already hot enough. So another thing that's helpful is you can cook your main protein once a week, and you can basically build your plate based on that protein. Now, most leftovers are only going to be good for 3 to 5 days in the refrigerator. Okay, if you make something and then you freeze it directly, the time period is going to be a little different because you're going to take it out of the freezer. But when you think about 3 to 5 days, if your protein was fish or a seafood source, going to probably want to use it by that 3rd day. If it was poultry, then you could probably stretch it to that 5th day. And then you can also reinvent leftovers. So if you cooked up some chicken with some veggies, all right, and you made that, and then you're like, well, I don't want this the next night, but I do have some tortillas and I've got some cheese. Take the chicken and veggies, maybe add a little seasoning to that, a different seasoning, and now it's reinvented into a chicken burrito. So you can get creative with that kind of stuff. So meal planning, what do you like to eat? Because your menu can be based off of that. You also have to consider, are there any dietary restrictions, especially if you are cooking for somebody else in the home? You will find out that simple is better. When you try to overcomplicate it, we get stressed out and then we end up going to fast food or ordering takeout, which we don't need to do. So write down your ideas and you turn it into a plan. Now, what I'm going to show you are just ideas. Okay, these aren't the actual recipes, but you can see starting with the protein, and then you add on your grain, your fruit, you can choose your fat. Okay, obviously throw some veggies in there. This is just a general guideline, but they didn't use vegetables for their breakfast. Okay, so you would choose 2 servings from that protein section, 2 servings from the grain, 1 serving from the fruit, and 1 serving from the fat. And then that could end up being your breakfast idea. And now with lunch, and again, all of these resources are available. So if you're like, she's flying through this, it's all available for you to look through. Lunch ideas, you can see this is where they get into the vegetables because they didn't feel like having that with their breakfast, which I totally understand some days. But again, choosing 3 servings of that. So they got 3 ounces of chicken. They chose their grain, their veggie, their fruit, their fat. That was their lunch idea. And then dinner, same thing, except they're choosing different, different protein sources. Again, your ounces may be different based on your nutrition requirements, but these are just general ideas. And then when you put it all together, this is what you get. So they had some scrambled eggs with oatmeal and a cup of berries. They needed a snack, so they had almonds and an orange. Made themselves a sandwich, and then dinner they had baked chicken with mashed sweet potatoes, and so on and so forth. So this could technically be a 1-day example for somebody. And we'll get into next the shopping, the grocery shopping side of it. So picking peak produce, which is really beneficial right now with everything coming into season. Actually, let me just skip that. Everything coming into season. And these are different things that will keep for over a week. You will see those listed. Do not wash your produce until you're absolutely ready to use it, because it'll spoil faster if you wash it. And then, like I said before, you can store it in sight, and that will also help. So those are different things as far as picking the produce. A lot of farmers markets are now open and everything like that. So you can give back to the community as well as you're shopping for different things. Now, here is a debate: frozen, canned, dried. Oh my. So you want to read the labels. Things that canned items can be full of are sodium, and sometimes too sugar can be added to different things. So you want to make sure that if you have to have a low sodium diet, you're choosing that one that's low in that. Same with the sugar as well. And when you purchase fruits, make sure you're purchasing those that are in water or their natural juices. And again, the dried fruits are more calorically dense. But another thing too that you can do to make sure that you're not getting extra sodium or extra carbohydrate, because sometimes that builds up in the can, you can rinse everything before you use it. So that's definitely another thing that you can do. So budgeting basics. You want to make sure that you save every penny that you can. So checking the unit price. That will mean that, for the dollar amount listed and then how many like ounces are in that product, you can calculate to see, you take that and divide it, how much it is per ounce. And then you can choose which is best for you. Just because Kroger has it on sale, for $3.99 or whatever, maybe the one that's not on sale actually gives you, more of a bargain. So you can do that. Shop on special days where there might be different discounts and things like that. If you still get the newspaper, clip your coupons that way. If you want to do the digital coupon thing, that's wonderful. I shop at Kroger, and I know that they have one, especially for the summer, where you save on gas as well. So there are just different things that you can do to save money. So you can buy those convenience foods like the already chopped up onions and peppers. You will pay for convenience. I think we all know this. If you buy something directly, that's already made, if you are purchasing a cake from the bakery versus making it yourself, I mean, you're going to pay for that. So there may be certain times with certain meals that you have time to do it. So you're not going to spend your money there. You're going to save it for something else. And then you can also definitely save by buying smaller amounts. This surprised me when I did this. Like I said, Kroger shopper. This is using my Kroger Plus card. And so when you look at what your priorities are and where your money is going, this shows you what you could buy for close to $9. So you could choose to get a case of Coca-Cola, or you could choose to get everything that's listed on the right. And I went through and I priced everything. And I mean, you can kind of just see there as far as where the money can go when you actually plan out what you're going to be eating. Before we get into the recipes, bulking do's and don'ts, pretty much when it comes to buying bulk items, all I suggest are bulking on non-perishables. Because if there's a deal with, buy 5 pastas and you know that the pasta is going to keep in the pantry because you don't open it until you have to use it, then that's the only thing that I would cook if I were cooking for one, that I would definitely bulk on. Some people choose to still buy the whole gallon of milk, even though it's just them. The only reason I would do this is if I were a baker and I was freezing the milk, because I have found out when I freeze milk, the only thing that it's not noticeable in, because it does change in texture and it can change, it becomes kind of grainy and you got to use a blender. But I would only use that for baking, for my baked goods. And you can also see too that you can buy half a dozen eggs instead of the whole dozen. If you wanted to treat yourself to some cookies, yes, I talked about that convenience part of it, but maybe you grab it on a day where they're running a special and you're able to get a few bakery items, a few little cookies versus buying the whole box and knowing that you're not going to, fully enjoy that. And same thing with talking to your butcher. And, you can get different cuts of meat and things of that nature versus having to buy the whole package. And another thing that I bulk on are frozen vegetables. And you can even buy the frozen pastas now and rice and things of that nature because they're always in the freezer. They're ready for you to grab. I do want to talk about the frozen dinner debate, because a lot of people are like, well, if I'm just cooking for myself, they have healthy options, I'm just going to get a frozen dinner. They are quick and easy. They are, I'll give them that. But you have to read those labels. A lot of them are loaded with fat and calories. And if they're not, and they promise you that they are a healthy choice, well, now they're loaded with sodium. Because when they take flavor from something, so they take away the fat to make it healthier for you, they've got to replace the flavor, especially with it being frozen. So now they're going to add in sodium, or for some things, they'll add in some sugar because they want you to continue to buy their product. So when you're looking at frozen dinners, no more than 10 grams of fat per 300 calories. And you will see that on the nutrition facts label. Also, should be fewer than 800 milligrams of sodium. Again, if it's something that you're consuming regularly, we definitely don't want sodium levels and stuff to spike. So related to all of this, food safety is critical. So when you are preparing your meals, you want to make sure that you follow the 4 points of fight back, which are clean, separate, cook, and chill. So the clean part is making sure not only our hands are clean, especially during this time that we're living in, but also our utensils, our surfaces, all of that. Separate means even when you start shopping. So when it's in your cart, your raw meat should stay away from your ready to eat items. Okay. So that shouldn't be touching your bread and all that kind of stuff. Cooking, making sure that it's cooked to a proper internal temperature. And the number one way to measure that internal temperature is with a food thermometer. And then chill, making sure that things that are perishable, that can spoil at room temperature, making sure that they go in the refrigerator or the freezer within 1 hour. You don't want them staying out at room temperature for over an hour. Think about it this way. They have a little protective barrier around them, and the longer they stay, that breaks down, and then all of these microorganisms jump on for a free ride. Now with it, if you took things outside, let's say you did enjoy a picnic or something like that, and you had a pasta salad or potato salad, when the temperature is 90 or higher, that 2-hour rule drops down to an hour. Okay. So again, it was 2 hours at room temperature, and then only an hour at 90 degrees or higher. So another thing too that sometimes confuses people, especially if they are trying to just shop for themselves and save as much as they can, when they look at dates. So product dating, the sell by date, you want to buy the product before that date, and it's safe to eat afterward, okay, by a few days. The best if used by or used by date, that means that if you are buying that product, you want to use it by that date for the best quality. All of this relates to quality of the food. So the sell by date, as well as the best if or used by date, deal with the quality and the flavor. And of course, when in doubt, throw it out. If it smells, heaven forbid, if it walks out of your fridge, just make sure that you throw it out. Okay, so if you found a recipe that you were like, this is amazing, but I do not want to make this whole thing. There's no way I'm using 3 cups of flour. I'm not doing that. Okay, when it says, like when you want to divide something in half, this is just a general guideline of what you can reduce it to. So you see on the left, if the recipe calls for those amounts, that's what you would go ahead and reduce it down to. If you wanted to do it by third, which is a little more complicated, and I definitely was not a math major, this is what it would end up being. Like at this point with the 1/3 cup, I would just be like, I'm going to eyeball it. I'm not lying because there's just so many different things. But this also just gives you an idea if you did want to alter a recipe to make a smaller amount, because of course that's always an option. But something that's beneficial is already having those recipes for you, knowing that they're tried and true and people have enjoyed them and that they make the smaller amount already. Very beneficial websites. I found recipes that I was like, these look absolutely delicious. I would love to make this. PBS has an entire website dedicated to cooking for one. And I did not realize that until I found it. And also BBC, so the British Broadcasting, I may have gotten that wrong, but channel, they have one completely dedicated to meals for one. They do use a lot of like duck and different things like that, but they have some other good recipes. And then there's a website called One Dish Kitchen, which if you're making dinner for one and you only have to use one pot or one pan, we like that even more. So these are all different places that if you're needing some new recipes to add, they are very, very helpful. Now, apparently I am late to the mason jar game, but I found these and I love them. And this will be, because we returned to the office June 1st in my county. This is my summer go-to for my lunch, these little mason jar salads. So you can use a 16 to 32 ounce jar. And I will share with you that the order matters. So the first thing you're going to pour into the jar is going to be the dressing. The dressing has to be on the bottom. Then you're going to put your hearty vegetables that aren't going to get super soggy while they sit on that dressing. And then if you have beans or avocado or something that can get kind of mushy, that will be next. Then your pasta or your grain, if you want it. You don't have to necessarily have that. And then your meat and eggs, cheese, nuts, whatever else protein base that you want to put on there. And then finally your lettuce. And then you seal it up. And when you are ready to have that delicious salad, you're going to shake it and it's all ready for you. Or some people just choose to open it and they, put the fork all the way down and then it scoops everything up as you come back up. So however you want to do it. But I saw those, fell in love, and they are absolutely fantastic. So the recipes, because I know I cannot see the chat box right now. All I can see is it lighting up. So I know we're going to have some questions and things of that nature. All of these recipes are on the website, but they also are in, the whole PowerPoint presentation. If you did not get them, you could comment in the chat box. I'm more than happy to email them to you directly, but you will see that all of these, like the nutrition down there at the bottom, I wanted to make sure that you knew the calories you were getting and all that kind of stuff. But this does make 2 servings. So if you felt in the mood for some apricot ginger chicken, you know that you could have this on Monday and Tuesday. Or again, if you're cooking for 2, there's your dinner. You just clean up. You've got some couscous pilaf with some mushrooms and parsley. You can take shortcuts, like you can use the couscous that's already done, the Near East one. But again, just different things. I wanted to give you main dishes, but I also wanted to give you sides, and I didn't want to just present you with the same stuff. If there was ever a rainy day that we have that's below 90, maybe some vegetarian minestrone soup. Most of the time minestrone is vegetarian, but this one made sure that even the broth is going to be vegetarian. So again, another option, garlic steak for 1. Okay. This is where you may just want to go talk to your butcher and just try and get an extra lean steak, 4 ounces. All right. And your garlic and your Worcestershire sauce, and you can go ahead and have that. Some of these recipes, it's just for the protein, and you'll see that. So those staples that I talked about, making sure that you have the frozen veggies on hand, making sure that you have the instant rice. You will just choose which one of those you want with your protein. Okay. Basil mashed potatoes for 1. So buying a red potato, having some sour cream. And again, you don't have to make the entire pot of potatoes. You could just go ahead and do this for 1 person. Oven baked sweet potato fries. This is my go-to. I love sweet potato fries, and I can actually get my son to eat them, and he enjoys them too. So sweet potato fries are great because white potatoes can be fine as well, but sweet potatoes, it's more, chock full of your nutrients there. Shrimp gumbo, okay, that only makes 2 servings. So if you felt like doing something with shrimp or seafood, but you don't want to bank with buying that amount of shrimp, you know, this one, you just get 6 ounces of it. You don't have to buy the whole giant bag of shrimp. Unless you were going to make it more than once, then you already have the shrimp in your freezer. So again, it really depends on how much you want to do. Too, you can see some of the things only have 4 ingredients, and then some of them have much more. So it really depends. You kind of have to time out and plan out your day. Chili corn muffins, make 6 muffins, but they hold very well. If you were going to do something like that, you know, the seafood gumbo or something like that, you could have these chili corn muffins with it. And they're not bad as far as the nutrition facts too. Macaroni and Parmesan cheese, instead of using, you know, traditional, you know, cheddar cheese. But this one, they add, you know, broccoli and that kind of stuff. So you're going to get your fiber and you're going to get those different vitamins and minerals. And sometimes too, you can turn a side dish into a meal. Like if I was looking at this and I decided, well, you know, I don't really have a really high protein source, but, you know, maybe I felt like adding in some chopped up turkey pepperonis, or I felt like adding in some chicken or something like that, then you could definitely do that. Green beans with a vinaigrette, very, very good as far as the nutrition level, but also just as far as it's a very simple recipe to do. Black bean and feta tostada. So basically thinking like an open-faced taco pretty much. You could, you know, do that and switch it up. If you were like, well, I've just kind of had this, I want to do something a little different, then you could definitely do that. This just makes 1. So it makes 1 tostada. And then honey mustard salmon with lime and peppers, which to me has summer written all over it. So this is definitely something you could do if you like to grill and you would rather grill it than, you know, put it in the oven. That's an option as well. You could do that in like a foil bag. So again, just trying to give you different options using different proteins and things that only make 1 or 2 servings. Then you have your Mediterranean fig and walnut chicken salad. Some of you may be thinking, no, I'm not putting figs in my chicken salad. I'm only going to use red grapes. And if you want to try something different, then this is definitely something that you could do. And what I liked about this is that it makes enough for 1 sandwich. So I just felt like having 1 chicken salad sandwich. So I'm going to go ahead and follow this recipe because that's what it serves. And our very last one before we do all of our questions is sesame brown rice. And I will just leave this up on the screen and we can go ahead. Shelly, I know the chat box is all lit up. So if you want to go through that with me, fire away.
I will. We have one question from much earlier in your presentation from Barbara. She wants to know, how does adding dry milk to skim milk help?
I have never done that, adding dry milk to skim milk. As far as the nutrition part of it, how does it help with that? Or making the skim milk go farther?
Possibly. Barbara Boyette, are you still with us?
Okay. Yes.
Here she is.
Long ago, I had read that you might just add a little more protein, or I don't know. It would just make the milk better if you're getting used to the thinner milk. When I first got married, like 53 years ago, I made my husband drink non-fat dry milk because of the budget. And so then I gradually, we went to the regular jug of milk. But I had forgotten if we were really helping with anything by adding the dry milk to the skim milk or whatever. I forgot. That's just why I am.
What I would definitely think is that you are helping with the texture and the taste. So a lot of people complain that skim milk, oh, it's just watered down milk,
Right.
or I'd rather just be drinking water than drinking skim milk. So by the chemical composition of the dry milk to the skim milk, you're correct. I mean, you were thickening it up. So you're basically like tricking yourself that you were drinking 2%. But if the dry milk was non-fat, like you said, you weren't giving yourself any extra fat or anything like that. It just would have been a little bit more as far as the calorie part of it, because the dry milk would contain that.
I haven't bought any in a while, and it's not my staple anymore.
Right, right. But good question.
Thank you.
Kate, we did also have a question. Leanne wanted to know why not wash before, and this was in regards, I think, to our fruits and vegetables, and I did answer that. You were talking about not washing them all, like when you get them home from the grocery store, and we do encourage people to wash them, but maybe not immediately. Wash them before they're going to use them, right?
Exactly. Definitely wash your produce. Wash your produce, but you want to wash it right before you're using it, especially when it comes to your lettuces and things of that nature, because when you wash all of it and then you put it back in the refrigerator, it'll cause it to wilt faster. And we have found that too with other fruits and vegetables, that when they're washed and then they're put away, then it, again, kind of like Leanne, I was saying, that little protective barrier that's around it. When you wash that, that's gone. So just make sure that you do wash it beforehand, but you wash it directly before use.
And just so we have it on the recording, Kate, I know we did mention some company names, but we do want everybody to understand that UT Extension and TSU Extension does not promote or endorse brand or company names.
Oh, no. I was just showing you where I got my figures from.
Yes. I just wanted it on the recording because it's in the chat, but it's not, wasn't on the recording. And no. Carla said that she loves her digital food thermometer and she gives everyone that for gifts. So I think that's a great idea.
Oh, definitely. Because that's the number one way, 100% accurate way to make sure that the meat is cooked correctly to the proper temperature. So a food thermometer is definitely the best way.
Yes. And I did list both of your resources, direct links to them in the chat. You can also find them on the supplemental page of the Central Region FCE website. That's all the questions that we have today related to this session.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining and for being here. And I really hope that this does help. And again, you could always contact me if there was something that you were like, I would like more recipes regarding this protein or that. Seriously, I'm here for you. So if you get my email is listed, you can definitely, or Shelly, I don't know if you want to put that in the chat really quick, but you could definitely contact me and I'm more than happy to help you.